In the swirling vortex of social media discourse, where opinions clash like storm fronts and celebrity voices carry the weight of cultural lightning rods, a striking confrontation emerged between two powerful women on opposite ends of the political spectrum. Candace Owens, the conservative commentator whose sharp rhetoric has carved deep lines in America's political landscape, found herself locked in verbal combat with Selena Gomez, the pop princess turned serious actress whose massive following gives her words unprecedented reach. What began as a seemingly straightforward exchange about immigration policy quickly escalated into a firestorm that illuminated the deep fissures running through American society. The spark that ignited this particular conflagration came during one of Selena Gomez's rare but impactful moments of political engagement. Known primarily for her music and acting career, Gomez had increasingly used her platform to speak out on social issues close to her heart. Her emotional plea regarding the Trump administration's deportation policies struck a particularly raw nerve in the national conversation. Standing before a crowd of thousands at a Los Angeles rally, her voice trembled as she recounted stories of families torn apart by aggressive immigration enforcement, tales she claimed came directly from constituents she'd met while volunteering at community centers along the border. Candace Owens watched this display unfold from her own digital pulpit, where she regularly dismantles what she perceives as liberal hypocrisy. With characteristic precision, she began crafting her response, not just a rebuttal, but a full-scale deconstruction of Gomez's position and public persona. What made this particular clash especially potent was how it encapsulated broader cultural tensions, the intersection of celebrity influence, political ideology, and the deeply personal nature of immigration debates in America. As Owens prepared her counterattack, she knew she wasn't just addressing Gomez, she was speaking to millions who saw their own values reflected in this conflict. The stage was set for a confrontation that would transcend typical political sparring, touching upon fundamental questions about authenticity in activism, the role of celebrities in shaping public opinion, and the complex realities of America's immigration system. Both women understood they were fighting for more than just rhetorical points. They were battling for the hearts and minds of a nation caught between competing visions of its future. Selena Gomez stood before the microphone, her usually composed demeanor visibly shaken as she recounted the harrowing stories that had brought her to this moment. Her voice cracked as she described meeting Maria, a mother of 3 who had lived in Phoenix for over 15 years, building a life and contributing to her community until an unexpected traffic stop led to her detention and eventual deportation. The pain in Gomez's eyes seemed genuine as she shared how Maria's youngest child, born in America, now faced growing up without her mother. "This isn't just policy," Gomez pleaded, her hands trembling slightly. "These are real people, real families being torn apart." The crowd responded with a mixture of cheers and sympathetic murmurs as Gomez continued, painting a picture of what she called America's moral failure. She spoke of visiting detention centers where children sat listlessly, their eyes hollow with confusion and fear. Her voice rose with emotion as she described volunteers working tirelessly to reunite families, only to face bureaucratic walls and endless red tape. Each story seemed carefully chosen to highlight different aspects of the crisis: economic contributors suddenly removed from their communities, dreamers facing uncertain futures, and asylum seekers caught in legal limbo. What made Gomez's presentation particularly compelling was her willingness to share personal connections to these stories. She revealed that her own grandmother had crossed the border decades ago, seeking better opportunities, and how that journey had shaped her family's American experience. This personal touch appeared to resonate deeply with the audience, many of whom nodded in recognition or wiped away tears. Her argument wasn't just about statistics or abstract principles, it was about human dignity, family bonds, and the promise of opportunity that she believed defined America's identity. As Gomez concluded her remarks, her voice breaking with emotion, she issued a direct challenge to policymakers and citizens alike. "We can do better than this. We must do better." The crowd erupted in applause, many holding up signs featuring photographs of separated families. Whether calculated or spontaneous, Gomez's emotional vulnerability created a powerful moment that seemed to crystallize the human cost of immigration policy for her supporters. It was this raw display of empathy and connection that would soon become the focal point of Candace Owens' critique. Candace Owens wasted no time in responding to Gomez's emotional appeal, launching a scathing critique that cut through the sentimental fog with surgical precision. In her characteristic style, Owens began by dissecting what she termed the performance of virtue signaling, suggesting that Gomez's display was less about genuine concern and more about maintaining relevance in Hollywood's progressive circles. "Watch closely," Owens remarked in her video response, when celebrities suddenly discover their conscience aligns perfectly with the latest Twitter trend. Her tone carried both amusement and disdain as she pointed out how Gomez's previous work with organizations benefiting immigrant communities amounted to little more than photo opportunities and social media posts. Owens methodically dismantled Gomez's arguments, beginning with the case of Maria, which she argued represented a misleading portrayal of immigration reality. "Let's talk facts instead of feelings," Owens stated, her voice rising with controlled anger. "Maria entered this country illegally, committed multiple traffic violations, and then cried foul when she faced consequences. That's not a victim story. That's a lesson in accountability." She went on to question the authenticity of Gomez's emotional breakdown, suggesting that such displays were becoming predictable elements in celebrity activism, carefully choreographed moments designed to generate maximum sympathy without addressing underlying complexities. The conservative commentator zeroed in on what she identified as Gomez's fundamental flaw, reducing complex policy issues to simplistic narratives. Owens mocked the notion that every deportation story warranted equal sympathy, pointing out cases where individuals had committed serious crimes yet still benefited from public support when facing removal. "It's always families being torn apart," Owens mimicked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Never mind if those families were built on a foundation of law-breaking. Never mind if the person being deported has multiple convictions. All we're supposed to see are the tears." Perhaps most devastatingly, Owens targeted Gomez's claim of personal connection to the immigrant experience. She highlighted how the singer's grandmother had entered the country legally through established channels, making the comparison to current illegal immigration invalid. "Suddenly everyone's grandmother story is supposed to justify open borders," Owens quipped, her delivery sharp and biting. "But there's a difference between following legal procedures and demanding amnesty for law-breaking." This line of attack struck at the heart of Gomez's emotional appeal, attempting to separate legitimate historical immigration from what Owens characterized as modern entitlement. Throughout her critique, Owens maintained a calculated balance between mockery and serious argumentation. She punctuated her analysis with derisive laughter at Gomez's more emotional moments, while simultaneously presenting alternative statistics and policy perspectives. The overall effect was a multi-pronged assault that sought not just to refute Gomez's position, but to undermine the very credibility of her activism. By framing Gomez's emotional display as manipulative rather than authentic, Owens aimed to neutralize its impact while reinforcing her broader narrative about celebrity culture's superficial engagement with complex issues. The digital battleground erupted in chaos as Candace Owens' critique spread across social media platforms, igniting a firestorm of reactions that demonstrated the deep divisions in contemporary American society. Supporters of Owens rallied behind her analysis, praising her for exposing what they viewed as the shallow nature of celebrity activism. Conservative commentators amplified her message, creating memes and soundbites that transformed her key arguments into viral content. One particular clip of Owens mocking Gomez's emotional display became a TikTok sensation, spawning countless remixes and parodies that dominated trending pages for days. The hashtag #RealTalkThisHollywoodTears generated millions of views, with users sharing personal stories of frustration with what they perceived as performative activism. However, the backlash against Owens' critique proved equally intense and widespread. Progressive influencers and activists mobilized quickly, defending Gomez's right to speak out and challenging Owens' characterization of emotional expression as inherently manipulative. A coalition of Latino advocacy groups released a series of videos highlighting actual immigrant stories, deliberately mirroring the format of Gomez's original speech, but with documented evidence supporting each case. These videos gained significant traction, particularly among younger audiences who appreciated the factual reinforcement of Gomez's emotional appeal. Several prominent psychologists also weighed in, arguing that dismissing genuine emotional responses to human suffering represented a dangerous form of emotional invalidation that could discourage meaningful public discourse. The debate took an unexpected turn when various entertainment industry figures began speaking out, creating a complex web of alliances and counter-arguments. Some celebrities distanced themselves from Gomez, agreeing with Owens' assessment of performative activism, while others organized benefit concerts and awareness campaigns in support of immigrant rights. The situation grew more complicated as corporate sponsors began withdrawing advertisements from platforms hosting particularly heated exchanges, citing concerns about brand safety. Meanwhile, fact-checking organizations found themselves overwhelmed with requests to verify claims from both sides of the debate, leading to conflicting reports that only added to the confusion. Social media algorithms, designed to amplify engaging content regardless of its accuracy, exacerbated the situation by promoting the most controversial takes and dramatic confrontations. Comment sections became virtual battlegrounds, With users employing increasingly sophisticated tactics to dominate discussions, memes evolved rapidly, with each side appropriating the other's imagery and language to create ironic counterpoints. The phrase emotional intelligence became a flashpoint, with progressives arguing it represented essential human compassion while conservatives dismissed it as code for weakness in policy making. Traditional media outlets struggled to keep pace with the rapid evolution of the discourse, often finding themselves accused of bias regardless of their coverage approach. Cable news networks attempted to host balanced discussions, but these frequently devolved into shouting matches that mirrored the online chaos. Print publications faced similar challenges, with op-ed pieces generating more heat than light as writers attempted to capture the nuance of the situation within traditional formats ill-suited to the fast-paced digital conversation. The controversy spilled over into offline spaces as well, with college campuses becoming hotbeds of debate and local community groups organizing discussion panels. Bookstores reported increased sales of titles related to immigration policy and emotional intelligence, while coffee shops and community centers hosted informal gatherings where citizens attempted to make sense of the polarized discourse. The situation reached such intensity that several major tech companies announced temporary changes to their platform algorithms, attempting to stem the tide of misinformation and inflammatory content without appearing to censor free speech. As the dust began to settle on the heated exchange between Candace Owens and Selena Gomez, the lasting impact on public discourse about immigration became increasingly apparent. Traditional media outlets found themselves forced to adapt their coverage strategies, recognizing that the old models of objective reporting were insufficient in an era where emotional resonance often trumped factual accuracy in shaping public opinion. Major newspapers and broadcast networks began incorporating more personal narratives into their immigration coverage, acknowledging the power of individual stories while maintaining rigorous fact-checking standards. This hybrid approach aimed to bridge the gap between data-driven policy analysis and the human element that so effectively captured public attention. Political figures across the spectrum took note of how effectively both women had mobilized their respective bases, leading to subtle shifts in how immigration issues were framed in legislative debates. Conservative lawmakers started emphasizing personal responsibility narratives, while incorporating more compassionate language about legal immigration pathways. Progressive politicians, meanwhile, refined their messaging to combine emotional appeals with concrete policy proposals, learning from Gomez's successful engagement of young voters. The result was a more nuanced national conversation that acknowledged both the human dimension of immigration and the practical challenges of policy implementation. Perhaps most significantly, the controversy sparked a broader reckoning about the role of celebrity voices in shaping public policy debates. While some argued that entertainers should stick to their craft, others recognized the unique ability of popular figures to bring attention to complex issues. This realization led to the emergence of new collaborative models, where celebrities worked alongside policy experts and affected communities to develop more informed and effective advocacy strategies. Organizations focused on immigration reform began actively courting celebrity involvement, but with structured programs that ensured deeper understanding and more responsible messaging. The business community also responded to the controversy's aftermath, with major corporations reassessing their positions on immigration-related issues. Tech companies in particular found themselves under pressure to address both the workforce implications of immigration policy and the role their platforms played in amplifying divisive rhetoric. This led to increased investment in digital literacy initiatives and more transparent content moderation policies. Meanwhile, traditional industries affected by immigration debates, from agriculture to construction, became more vocal in advocating for practical solutions that balanced economic needs with public concerns. Educational institutions seized the moment to enhance their civic engagement programs, recognizing the need to prepare students for participation in increasingly complex public debates. High schools and universities developed new curricula, focusing on media literacy, emotional intelligence in public discourse, and the intersection of personal narratives with policy discussions. These programs emphasized critical thinking skills and respectful dialogue, aiming to cultivate a generation capable of navigating contentious issues without resorting to the polarizing tactics that had characterized the Owens-Gomez exchange. As society moved forward from this cultural flashpoint, it became clear that the conversation about immigration had fundamentally changed. While the basic ideological divides remained, the terms of engagement had evolved. Public figures approached sensitive topics with greater awareness of both the power and limitations of emotional appeals. Policy discussions incorporated more diverse perspectives, and media coverage reflected a more sophisticated understanding of how to balance human interest with analytical rigor. The controversy served as a catalyst for growth, pushing American society toward more thoughtful and inclusive approaches to one of its most challenging issues.